Today's video, I thought we'd look at the top 10 movie sequels in honor of Kong Skull Island coming out tomorrow at wide release. Though not directly a sequel, it is the next installment in the franchise sequel-ish thing to 2014's Godzilla. So, yeah, I thought today, we'd talk about some of the best movie sequels. For this list, I decided I'm only going to do the straight sequel. None of this third or fourth movie stuff, just the one that follows the first movie. That's it. That's the complete thing I'm doing. So, I don't have any honorable mentions here, because this was not an easy list to make. There's a lot of great movies, a lot of great franchises, a lot of great sequels, but it's really hard to think of one that's better than the first movie or equal to. And I think that's what you need for a movie sequel, is something that's equal to the first one and expands the world, or something that's better and bolder and does something new and original that works for the franchise as a whole. So, let's start it. Let's get right into it. At number 10, I have the highly acclaimed horror sequel to the cult hit movie that is Evil Dead 2. Now, if you go to what this movie did for the genre as a whole, it just made the horror comedy a staple and just made it a huge franchise thing that everyone loves and stuff. Bruce Campbell, back at it, going back as Ash Williams, doing so much more good stuff in the sequel to Evil Dead. That was just a straight up horror with the comedic element of all these new things we're seeing in Evil Dead 2. It just makes the franchise better, turned it into what it is today with Army of Darkness, with Ash vs. Evil Dead. None of those things would happen. Shaun of the Dead. None of these things would happen if it wasn't for what Evil Dead 2 did to the franchise and reinvigorated it into a new light and just changed the way we view it as a whole. At number 9, I have The Godfather Part 2. If you don't think The Godfather and Godfather Part 2 are some of the best films ever made, the script, the directing, the story, everything about it is pure brilliance and genius. Coppola at his finest work. And I think it can go back and forth between a lot of people which one is better, Part 1 or Part 2 of the Godfather series. It's definitely not Part 3. But it really depends on what your preference is for characters and things. I think if it's not better, then Godfather Part 2 is equal to the first Godfather movie, and that's what you can really ask for in something like this. Does it equal? Does it go better? It depends on your taste. But it's still a great sequel, a great follow-up, or a great prequel to what you really love about The Godfather. And it's a ballsy thing to make a prequel or a sequel to Godfather, so the way that they did it and the story that they told, it's brilliant, it's genius, and it's one of the best films ever made. So number 9, Godfather Part 2. At number 8 is the critically acclaimed superhero political thriller, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I love this movie. This is probably one of my favorite movies in the MCU. It's brilliant, it's masterful. The Russo brothers, with their big directorial debut as these really good action directors, they just knocked it out of the park. They made Captain America, a modernized character, still holding on to his own classic Americano beliefs from the 40s, and everything they did with the villains and the real world of the government and how it collapses and everything with Hydra and making Black Widow present and giving us a strong character in the Falcon and Winter Soldier. It just revolutionized superhero movies, it revolutionized action movies, and it revolutionized people coming from comedic backgrounds doing something brilliant on screen in a big, beautiful way. So number 8, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Number 7, we're coming up to one of my favorite sequels to a movie ever. I put it lower on this list because I think compared to some of the other ones, it doesn't stand out as this really good grasping one. That is The Road Warrior. I love The Road Warrior, what it is as a story, everything it has ever done. It completely revolutionized the crazy genre that is Mad Max, and taking it from this, you see Mel Gibson in the first movie losing his family and coming to terms with how the world is, and then we see what happens to the world and how this man that we saw in the first movie just completely changed and is different in the sequel. The world is so intense. If you've seen only Fury Road, go back and watch The Road Warrior, because it is the best Mad Max movie ever made. It's just crazy, it's bonkers, it's just so real and grounded, and just, you're gonna love it if you haven't seen it, so go check it out. Number 7, The Road Warrior. Number 6, I have one of my favorite franchises ever, and the direct sequel to that, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I love everything that the first movie did with Rise, and taking it into it upped the ante in the next movie, something that you need to see in a sequel, taking a really grounded first movie and making a giant action movie that's so impactful, dangerous, it's just bold, and it's terrifying. And Andy Serkis is so criminally underrated for his performance as Caesar. Everything that they did with the characters of the apes and humanizing them and seeing the humans as these villains and Tanks on Apes, it's brilliant. It's just pure filmmaking at its finest. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You're going to love it. Everything you see with the characters, the CGI is beautiful. The story is so beautiful and organic. The action is so good. You're going to fall in love with this movie. So number 6, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Number 5 is something that transcends the genre of the first movie and made it something so much better and dangerous. Just bold, brash, and one of the best movies ever made in the sci-fi genre, and that is Aliens. R.I.P. Bill Paxton. You kicked it out of the park in this, man. You just completely changed the face of sci-fi movies and action movies as a whole. Every character in this movie is developed and has their big moment. James Cameron just kills it and makes this movie bold. It's just impactful. Every story element going up from the incredible movie that was the first Alien into something so dangerous and brash in this new one. Just seeing how all the characters transport, so making Sigourney Weaver as Ripley a bigger and more important impactful character. Everything she did, the alien queen, the whole thing about family and motherhood and being a parent in this movie, it's just beautiful. It's just so bold. You gotta watch this movie. So number 5, Aliens. Sticking to James Cameron, at number 4 we have Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This is exactly what you want in a sequel. It takes these characters you already know and love and puts them in a new situation and makes it bold, beautiful. We get a fantastic Arnold Schwarzenegger just knocking out of the park once again as the Terminator. Everything he does in this movie is beautiful. It's dangerous. It's just incredible. I keep saying that for a lot of these sequels because that's what they are. They just up the ante to make things better. The T-1000 is just incredible. He just knocks it out of the park. Having another strong female character in Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, it's just beautiful. The CGI, the story, the best sci-fi horror you'll ever find out there. Well, one of them. And everything about it you're just going to love. It's just pure, amazing sequelness that it works on so many levels. So at number 4, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Coming in at number 3 is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I know I said that about The Winter Soldier, but this one, if you don't like this movie, you are lying to yourself because it's brilliant. So that is The Dark Knight. This sequel changed everything we thought about Batman and the Joker and made it into one of the best rivalries we've ever seen on screen. Christopher Nolan brilliantly directs this movie. Heath Ledger gives the best performance of his career. He was taken from us too soon. Everything that happens in this movie is so gorgeous. It's so beautifully shot. You're compelled by every character, even the character of Two-Face, one of my favorite Batman villains. Everything that happens in this movie, you just understand why these choices were made on film. It ups the ante from what we saw in Batman Begins and takes into a new direction, something bolder, something more fantastic, and it's just gorgeous and intense and real. So at number 3, The Dark Knight. Coming in at number 2, a movie that I put at number 2 is going to shock a lot of people that it's not number 1. That is The Empire Strikes Back. Why did I put it at number 2? Is because there's one movie I think is the best sequel. But you go for sequel for The Empire Strikes Back, it takes a turn for the darker and much more worse for the franchise of Star Wars. We see our characters in new situations that we didn't expect to see them in. We have so many more set pieces, so many new characters introduced, one of the biggest plot reveals of cinema history. There's so much happening in the sequel to this. It's bolder, it's bigger, it's way more intense, and you can debate, is it better than the first Star Wars movie? That's a debate a lot of people can have. It depends on your preference and what you think. I don't know, I could go back and forth on both of them. But if you don't think Empire Strikes Back changed the game for sequels, changed the game for movies, and changed the game for cinema, you just aren't seeing it like it's supposed to be seen. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's dark, it's intense, and it's just pure Star Wars love. So at number 2, The Empire Strikes Back. And coming in at number 1, this may be controversial, but I'm putting Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan as the best movie sequel. Why? Because you look at the first movie, it was not the greatest movie ever made. It didn't represent Star Trek the way it should have. It just felt too different than what we wanted. We get this sequel, lower budget, way better movie, the best rivalry we've seen on screen in a long time between Khan and Kirk. Everything the characters did, the whole story of Kirk finding out who he is now as this older man, still coming into having to see the Enterprise in its way, the rivalry with him and Khan. It's so beautiful. It's just incredible cinema. We see the death of one of the beloved characters from the childhood of many people, of Spock. The characters, they just feel like they did back in the original series. It's so great. It's so beautiful. Everything that happened in this movie, it just makes for a better sequel. Because of how the first movie was, this one is grander, it's bigger, it's one of the greatest science fiction movies ever made, and Khan is one of my favorite movie villains of all time, bar none. So that's my list of the top 10 movie sequels. You know, maybe you have a different list, maybe you don't. That's cool, you know, we all have our own opinion. So let me know what you think, if you agree, if you don't agree. It doesn't matter, we're all different people. So yeah, good luck and let's go see Kong.